I'm Alfred, so I'm a solution consultant here in Sahaj. So yeah. So the title of this talk is Building a Real-World React Redux Application. So first I would like to have a quick poll. So how many of you are like front-end web developers over here? Hardcore. So a lot of you. Okay, that's cool. How many of you have worked with React in combination with Redux? Cool.
Nobody uses Redux.
Okay, great. So I was really glad, like a couple of attendees, pinged me earlier, asking whether this was a beginner level session, like whether they could attend it because they were starting out with React and Redux. So yeah, this is a beginner to intermediate level kind of talk. So basically, this will be more about how you build your application using React and Redux, and not about like why you should use React or Redux. Let's say you picked up React and Redux, or let's assume that your team is working on a project that's using React and Redux. So you've made an arbitrary choice, or a very well informed choice. Let's say you've picked up React and Redux. So this talk will be like more about how do you build your application with that. So we'll not be comparing it with other frameworks or other libraries. And so that's it. So this is basically the things that we'll be like seeing in this talk. And in addition to that, we'll also be looking at Redux, which is an implementation of Flux. We'll be looking at React Router and the React Redux starter kit, which is like a boilerplate code that you can use to build your application. So okay, so what do you need to know to really make the most of this talk? I would say HTML, CSS is definitely a must. So you should know JavaScript because and Node and NPM. I guess you you need to know a little bit about NPM to actually scaffold your application and load the libraries needed and all that stuff. And ES6, well, that's totally optional. But if you know ES6, it's going to reduce the verbosity of your React code a lot. So that'll be like less code, so it'll be like more maintainable kind of stuff. So okay. So what is React? So all the front-end developers over here, right? So can you define React? Yeah. Okay. So you all agree that it's a library, right? It's not a framework. Cool. So yeah, that's exactly what React is. It's just a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. Most of the time, people think that it's a framework. Okay? It's not actually. It's just a library. It does not come with any routing functionality, or it does not provide you the state management capabilities and all that stuff. It's just for building a UI. So all the other things that you should take care of by yourselves. So yeah, and the basic thing about React is when you're beginning with React is like think of building the UI with React as creating React elements. So normally when we are working with HTML, right, you will you'll structure, you use the markup like h1 tags and paragraph tags. So when you're working with React, you will create React elements, and this is the basic syntax for creating a React element. So as you can see, React.create, and you will pass the element and the props for that React element, and finally the children of that element. So this is what you will be creating. And to render this element, you'll actually use something called React DOM. So you'll pass your element along with the node that you want to render it inside. So that's how you do. So this does not have any JSX or ES6 I think. So this is how you do it without the JSX and any ES6 stuff. So okay. So now that you know what you'll be creating with React, so how do you start? How do you set up the environment? So I like to view it in two ways. One, you can grab the CDNs, the links to the static JavaScript files, just include them in your HTML and start scripting right away. That will be like, you can begin very easily, you can begin quickly. But if you want to use it for building some real application, then I guess the way to go would be like to do it the NPM way, when you just create a blank project, you do the NPM init and stuff, or you can use some kind of scaffolding tool. Like another quick way to do is like you can use the React app tool that is provided by the React guys. So that will scaffold a very simple app. So I'll be using that to demonstrate the things that I'm going to show you. Okay, so now what is JSX? I think Sudhakar covered a little bit of JSX in his talk, right? So it's just a JavaScript syntax extension. So it helps to reduce the verbosity in React code. So earlier you saw one way to create your React elements, right? So there's a more a concise way to do that. So as you can see, you can use the HTML markup style to actually create your React elements. So this is like far less code, and you can see it is really easy, it is readable, and you can quickly understand. And one difference that you have to really understand is, even though it looks pretty similar to HTML, the props that you're passing to your React elements are pretty much different from your regular HTML attributes. So you'll have things like class, but in JSX, everything will be camel cased, and you can see the class becomes class name. And so there are these little differences between HTML and JSX. So you should not, don't confuse JSX with your regular HTML. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more close to, the naming conventions are a little bit closer to JavaScript. So it's kind of, there are some differences, subtle differences. And so, yeah, when you're beginning with React, I guess this is like a must-have tool in your development kit. So do install this plugin so you can view all your, React-based web applications. You can just see the components, different components in the page. This is one useful tool that you can have.
And also Vue has that. But Mithil does not have it.
So yeah, components. So we saw a lot about components, right, in the previous talk itself. So actually, components, you have to think about components like custom-made HTML. Just think of it like that. So components are independent, reusable pieces of UI. So, like I told you, you can reuse your components, across your app, multiple places, and they are like your custom HTML, tags. So, so what components give you is they give you renderable React elements. That's the basic actually. So, props and state are like very important concepts with regard to components, React components, because props are like the attributes you pass to your HTML elements. They're kind of similar, but this time it's like for your React elements. So, so components can also have a localized state, so that like whenever the state changes, they'll know that they'll have to re-render. So, and yes, this is a really important categorization of components. So there are like stateful and stateless components. So the first is stateless components. These are like very easy to make. So it's just a function that returns a React element. So that's as simple as it gets. So you will actually receive an argument called props, which you can use within the element that you are creating. So for example, I've used it to get the name that's being passed via props. So, and the other thing is stateful components. So stateful components, like I told you, they have a localized state, and there are a couple of lifecycle hooks that can be accessed via these components. I mean, these components can access those, use those lifecycle hooks. So, and the main requirement is, so this should have a function, have a method called render, and that render method should return your React element. So I'm not using see that I'm using JSX. I'm not using that create element syntax anymore because it's less code and it's easily readable. So that's JSX and that's not normal HTML. So yeah, this will be your typical component. So that's where you will kind of assign your state in the constructor. And whenever you want to update your state, you will call set state method. So you will not be like directly mutating it. So the reason why you should use set state is that only when you use set state, React will know that the state has changed and it has to trigger the re-rendering. So yeah. And yeah, I think Sahaj covered about these component lifecycle groups, right? So there are lots, but you will see component build mode, component build unmount to perform some initialization and cleanup stuff in your components. So there are many more, but these are kind of the ones that you will see more often in your React apps. So okay, now we come to Babel. So you don't really need Babel to actually develop React applications, but it has advantage. It has some advantages. So, say for example, I'm using JSX to reduce the verbosity of my code, and I'll use ES6 arrow functions and destructuring syntaxes and object assignment stuff. So all those things actually come at a cost, right? So you need to transpile them to ES5. That's the version of JavaScript like most browsers support. So you'll have to convert it to ES5, and for that you need Babel. So yeah, as you all know, it's used for converting the latest ES 2016 plus JavaScript and JSX to ES5. So as you know, like ES6 is ECMAScript 2015 also known as, and ES 2016 plus includes all the ES7 and all the latest stuff. So, yeah. And yeah, I wanted to show a quick example of how you can get started with Babel. So it's very simple. You just have to install the Babel CLI, and I have installed it globally. And there are a couple of presets that you will need to convert your JSX and ES16 code. Most of the time it will be like React, Stage 0 and latest. These three will be like more than sufficient to actually transfer your code. And once you've added the Babel RC file and you've enabled all these presets, then it's pretty easy. You just go to your command and you just run Babel and path to the source file that you want to transfer, and then the destination, it will transpile it. And I can show you an example. So, like I told you, this is my .babel RC file. So this is where I'll enable my presets that I've installed earlier. So as you can see, I've already set this up. So I've installed all my dev dependencies, and you see that I've installed my Babel preset latest React Stage 0 and stuff. And so all I have to do is just go and run the Babel. So once that's done, you will get something like this. So this is the file that Babel spits out. So you can see it has converted all my JSX to normal JavaScript, and but still it is using the CommonJS require. So this will not work in your browser, and that's precisely where we'll be going next. So that's the problem with Babel. So you can't use this. Send this code to the browser and run it straight away. You need something called as a module bundler. So Webpack is not just a module bundler. It also acts like a task runner. You can do stuff like minifying and like compiling Sass to CSS, all those stuff. It's like a task runner plus a module bundler. So and all you have to do for Webpack is again, just like Babel, you have to install the Webpack package, and you need to include something called as webpack.config.js, and this is where you will specify what Webpack has to do. So I have specified my entry as source/index.js. So that's the file that I want to, like transpile and bundle. So I'll specify my output as this/assets, and I'll also mention the name of the output file that I want. And in the loaders, you can see that I'm using Babel loader, and so Webpack uses Babel loader to transpile my like ES6 and JS6 stuff, and put it in that bundle.js file. So, and yeah, that's how Webpack works. And I'll show you the file that Webpack gives you back. So this is the file that Webpack will give you back. So it's pretty long, and this will work in your browsers. So this is what you'll be like sending to your clients. This is what will work in the browser. So yes, this makes it clear, right? I mean, like why? What's the difference between Babel and Webpack? And, why you need Webpack? So any questions so far?
When you transfer your JSX code into this thing, and it's running in a browser, how do you debug or something?
How do you debug? Yeah. You will get something called map, right?
So,
yeah. Yeah.
Also, the React plugin that we explained, right, that will give you even better control as to know where actually what's changing. You can see the state of every component. Yeah, that will be easier.
Cool. Any other questions, guys? So, okay. I think I'll move on to Flux. So Sudhakar explained about Flux in the previous talk, but I don't think. Yeah, okay. I'll also touch up a little bit on Flux. So it's just a design pattern, and it makes sure that the data flow in your application is unidirectional. So that's what Flux is all about. So, and you might have seen this diagram in a lot of places. I think like any talk about Flux, it will not be complete without this diagram. So I just included it. So as you can see, this is the view part. This is what React helps you build, and all the remaining stuff you will have to use some other library, some other frameworks like Redux or other implementations of Flux, like Reflex, something like that. So the way it works is you'll have something called as a store, and and that's where your state will be contained, and your view will get its data from that store. And whenever you want to mutate the state, your view dispatches actions, and those actions will be given to the store, and the store will mutate. So there is it's unidirectional. You can't go the other way. So there is only one one way from the store to the view, and not from the view to the store. That's it. So this is Flux. Like I told you, there are multiple implementations of Flux. So Redux is one of the many, and there's Facebook's Flux, there's Reflux. But we are not going to compare these different implementations, but instead, let's say you've picked up Redux. So how do you go about building an app with Redux? So that's what we'll see. And, Redux. So first I want to show about Redux is we are going to talk about the plain Redux. There's something called as Redux framework, which is a WordPress framework. We are not going to talk about that. So we're going to talk about this Redux, and it is a predictable state container for JavaScript apps. So I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? It's a state container basically, and if you see how the implementation of the Flux diagram changes when you come to Redux, you will have something called as a reducer function, and what your React views will do is they'll dispatch an action object, and your Redux store will take that action object and it will give it to the reducer function along with the current state, and only your reducer function can mutate your state, and it will not actually mutate the current state that is passed to it, but instead it will return a new state, because reducer functions are pure functions, and the new state that is returned by the reducer, it will update the state in the Redux store. And once the Redux store, the state in the Redux store is updated, it will, it will invoke all the subscribed methods, and thus, it will reflect in your React views. They'll get re-rendered, and that's how Redux works. So these are the core of Redux. So if you want to understand Redux, I think the reducer function, the Redux store, and your action objects, these are the core things that Redux is all about. So again, there are three principles of Redux. One is called single source of truth. So the state of your Redux application is just stored in a single object tree within a single store. This is where Redux kind of differs from your, in its implementation, because in Flux, in the Flux design pattern, there is no mention about how many stores should your app contain. It does not restrict the number of stores your application can have. But Redux says that you should only have one store per application, and it also says that you should keep your entire state in a single object tree, and that's what single source of truth is all about. And the state is read-only. So the state in your Redux store is only read-only. There is only a getter method, just get state, and there is no setter methods like set state, because the only way you can mutate the state in your Redux store is by dispatching actions. And that's what the second principle is all about. And changes are made with pure functions. Like I told you earlier, the reducer function is a pure function, meaning that you take the current state and then you will return a new state without modifying the current state. So that's the third principle. Okay. So like I told you, these are the three core things that you should understand about Redux. First up, I'll be doing actions. So actions describe the fact that something has happened. So they are the way, whenever a user interacts or something is happening in the system, actions are the way you describe that event to the store. And actions are plain JavaScript files. So, and one requirement is an action object should have the type property. It cannot miss the type property. It should definitely have, because that is the only way your reducer function can know what type of action has been dispatched. So this is how a typical action object will look like. So you will have a type key and the action type, and it will also have any other type of data or information that you want to pass to your reducer functions. And the type is a must. So yeah, next we come to the reducer function. So like I told you, actions describe what has happened. Right? Reducer functions are the ones that actually change the state in your Redux store, and they are pure functions, and they take the previous state and an action, and they will return a new state, and they'll not modify the the current state that was passed to them. And your typical reducer function syntax will be like this. So you will be passed a previous state and an action, and all that you will return is a new state. I'll show you a demo at the end of this. So now we come to the main part of Redux, the Redux store. So the Redux store is where your state is contained. So it holds the application state, and so you can access the state from the Redux store by using the getState method. And so the only way to update your state is by dispatching actions, and the way you dispatch it is you will call the dispatch method on the store, and you will pass the action. And there is a subscribe method, so which will which will be used to you will subscribe to the store so that whenever the state changes, you will be informed. Your subscriber methods will be invoked. And again, the way you unsubscribe from the store is like your subscribe function will return you a function, and by calling that, you will subscribe whatever the method that you unsubscribe whatever method you had subscribed. So that's what Redux store is all about. So you will typically create your store with the create store method that is provided by Redux, and you will pass your reducer function to it. Yeah.
You said this is an application state managed by the Redux store.
Okay.
So there are many users. So the store state for each and every user.
I'm not able to hear. It's a bit loud.
There are many users in the application. So it has to store the state for every user. It has to do the
But yeah, runs in the middle.
So just a random.
Yeah, it's just for the front. So, okay, so before going to reducer composition, since there is like a constraint that you have to use only one store and your entire application state should be in a single object tree, it kind of, makes your reducer function really long, if you have to, do it the Redux way. So what Redux provides you, or what Redux creators suggest, is use something called as reducer composition. So what you will do is you will not have one composite reducer function that will handle all your actions, but instead you will have different reducer functions that will handle different parts of your state, and finally you will tie all these reducers together, and you will pass that composite reducer to the Redux store. So the way you will do or you can combine the reducers is by using the combine reducers method that is provided by Redux. So I'll show you an example. So I'll take a to-do list app as an example. So if you see, I'm importing the combine reducers method from the Redux package, and I'm using the combine reducers method, and I'm passing it an object with two functions. This is the new syntax, ES6 syntax. It's like a shorthand relation. So when I say to-dos, it means I'm passing a function to the to-dos key, and I'm passing a function to the visibility filter key, and this is like a shorthand notation. Yeah. So, and finally the combined reducers will return a composite reducer function that I can use during my store creation. So in the beginning we saw stateless and stateful and functional components, right, while discussing about React. So usually when you are working with a React Redux application, you will come across container and presentational components. So what are these? So what is a container component? So this is just two categories of components. So the main difference is presentational components are purely for presentation. They'll not know about any logic, or they'll not hold any state. Everything they need will be passed to them through the props, and they'll just use it. And they're like very reusable. Like you can take this and you can reuse it in many parts. Whereas the container components, they are concerned with the behavior and connecting your component with the Redux store. So as you can see, they are concerned with how things work and how data and behavior provide the data and behavior to the presentational or container components. They call the flux actions and provide these callbacks to the presentation components, and they are usually stateful. And they tend to serve as data sources. So they usually there's something called as higher order components in React. So you will usually use that pattern to make your container components. So and a few examples of container components are follower sidebar, story container, followed users list. So this is how your typical container component will look. So we have not used any higher order function and higher order component. It's just you've written it entirely by yourself. So as you can see, we have used the component did mount hook to actually subscribe to the store, and we'll say we'll just pass a function that calls this dot force update. What this does is, whenever there is a state change, since it is subscribed, it will be informed, and it will re-render this entire component. And in the component will unmount hook, we have unsubscribed. As you can see, like we are storing the method that was written by subscribe in this dot unsubscribe. So anytime you call this dot unsubscribe, you're going to unsubscribe from the store. And yeah, as you can see, in the render method, we are fetching the state store, and we're keeping it in a variable called state, and we will pass it to other presentational components through props. So this is what your container component does. So that your like presentational components, they don't have to worry about like connecting with the store and all those kind of stuff. So they can be reused. And yeah, so presentational components. So they're concerned with just how things look, and they have no dependencies on the rest of your app, such as your flux action or stores. So they don't specify how the data is loaded or mutated, and they'll receive all these things via props, and they rarely have their own state. So there's no hard and fast rules that like your presentational components have to be purely functional components. You can even create a stateful component for your presentational components. But usually you will see functional components as like presentational components. And they are really suitable for your page, your sidebar, store, user info, list. These kinds of stuff, they can be presentational components. So this will be your typical presentational component. So it's just a function. And as you can see, I've used destructuring syntax to get my to-dos and on-to-do click handler from the props. And I've used it inside my JSX. So I don't, I mean, these things are not implemented in the presentation component, but we have passed through it. We have the props. So most of the times, the biggest challenge is how do you pass your store to your components? So yeah, React Redux guys. So how do you handle this? Any idea? Sorry? Yeah, the state will be there in the store, and you will have the store. How do you pass it through your components? So let's say you have a container component, and that container component has a lot of child components, and those child have child inside there. So how do you pass your store through these components and down to the last child? Say suppose you want to like display some data from the store in your last child component. How do you pass your store? Or how do you pass this data? Props.
Have it as a global state store variable so that anyone can access that. Right? You just have only one store anyway.
Okay.
Have it as a global and then anyone can access it. Because passing it as props also work, but you just have more.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can pass it as props. So like I said, you can have a global variable and then like just pass it through props. That will be one way. So as you can see, I'm rendering an element called toApp, and I'm passing the store that I'm creating as a prop. And inside the toApp component, I'm getting the store from the props, and I'm using it within my JS. So this is one way, but I don't think this is like really the best way to actually pass your props down your components, because there should be a much better way. I think there should be a much better way, and you should not do it this way. That's what I feel. And there definitely is. There's something called as context that that's provided by React. So as you can see, I'm getting my store from the context. So in this, I've also introduced something called as provider, that is given by the React Redux package. And what provider does is, it's going to take the store prop and it's going to make it available through your context. So as you can see at the top, I'm rendering the provider and I'm passing the store as my props. And in my child components, which is the to-do app component, the to-do app component has other child components like visible to-do list and all that stuff. And so within that, I'm actually accessing the store through these props, through the context. So as you can see, I've restructured a store from this.context. So I'm not passing it through props, but I'm using context to pass my store. And the usual stuff like I'm subscribing to the store and I'm calling unsubscribing the will unmount component. I mean, like a book. Yeah. What's the difference? So you're not passing it as props. So see, I just pass it here, and I don't do anything in my child components. Okay. So for example, to-do app is like a parent to visible to-do list. Okay. So if I want to get my store in visible to-do list, usually when I pass it to props, I have to include this prop in the to-do app also. You get me? Previous one. As you can see, here I'm passing the store through my to-do app, and I have to pass it as a prop to all my children. So this is particularly a problem. So if you have to pass it as a prop to all your child components to make it available, then it's actually not good, right? If you miss it out in one place, then it will not be available in the child hierarchy. So the best way is to go through context, so that you just pass it in one place as props in the provider, and then like the rest, you don't have to pass it to the rest of the child components. It will be available through the context.
So the provider thing, you just set in one place, then everything is a child of provider.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. You don't have to pass it through all your child components to make it available in the. Yeah, that's precisely I wanted to tell you. So that's the difference between like passing it as a props and then like passing it through context. So this is one of the challenges, and most of the time you will not be writing this entire component. You'll be using something called as higher order component, and we'll see that next. So simple definition of higher order component is it's just a React component that wraps another component. So when you are creating a higher order component, you're just passing one component and then getting back another one. So it wraps this component, and it returns a new component. So I'll show you an example. So there's something called connect. Again, you can get it through your React Redux package, and this is the syntax for that. So you will pass map state to props function and map dispatch to props function, and you will pass the presentation of the component that you want to wrap, so that all these things will come inside it, like you're getting the state through context and subscribing to the state and all this stuff. You will just get a container component out of it, and you don't have to write. So this is like a cool thing, and I'll show you an example at the end. So here's an example. I'm creating a container component using the connect. and I'm passing a presentation component. And what are these map state to props and map dispatch to prop methods? So basically, what your map state to props will return is just an object, and that's again the same with map dispatch to props. You'll be returning another object. So these are the props that will be available to your presentational components. I mean, through your container components. So, like I told you, you don't have to worry about the store. You will get the state from the store available in the map state to props, and like there is a dispatch function in the store, right? And you don't have to worry about that also because that will be available to the map dispatch to props. All you have to do is like write your methods inside that so that they can use the dispatch to dispatch actions, and you can get data from state through the map state to props. And finally, you can pass all these props to your presentational components through the container components by calling connect and getting the higher order component. So this is how like usually you will be creating container components in Redux. And this is less code, right? I mean, like comparatively, like making your own container component, doing all this stuff, it reduces a lot of code, and it's pretty much easy. Any doubts?
So what is when you say map state to prop and the state comes in, what actually comes in state?
Your current store state.
Current store state.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say I have one store state, and the map dispatch to props is basically like helper methods which dispatch. They would also basically like that will there will be dispatch props in your presentation.
Because we don't want to take all these implementation, all these things to the presentation. We want to keep it in the container itself. So normally you would do it like store.dispatch. Instead, this is much more concise.
Almost all your components will have a container.
Okay.
So you can just use the map state to prop in that container and then map it to that particular prop.
Actually, what this does is it connects to your Redux store. It connects your component to the Redux store,
so
right?
For example, your store is available kind of globally. Okay.
Yeah.
So every container has access to the store. And then that can pass it to the process. Because what way, I'm not very sure using that context kind of breaking that. Actually, so what happens now is that, like, can you go back a slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, here. Right? So here in your component right now, you get the subscription and the component you get the unsubscribe. Right? That is not required now because that is being taken care of the higher order. So you don't need this context in your presentation component. So you visible to this is your presentation component. All you need to care about is render because all the rest of the stuff that you're interested in comes in props.
Yeah.
So the way for the context centered to the child centered to the side. Yes. So when you use the Redux in the component, almost all your components, individual component will have a container. The container what it does is it has the data and the behavior to your component. Yes. Now, since you have a container for all the components, you can do a map state for each of these containers. Because I'm not very sure. I just have a feeling that context will break that code here. No, actually, it doesn't. I mean, this is a part, it's not part of Redux, it's a part of React.
Yeah.
So provider and can you take a pattern which
Which is provided by React Redux package.
Yeah, so otherwise what happens is you do property propagation, right? So whatever that you set in this prop, you will have to propagate it all the way down the chain, right?
Exactly.
So in order to avoid repetition of the propagation, I mean context will take care of it. And this is like React and app packages and all this. I mean many people actually use the context. It's really interesting. And you can do a lot more. So now, so every single component that you have will
in a sense, they can simply be functions that do pattern matching on the props, and you can just do the render.
Exactly. But hey, there's no hard and fast rule that your presentation component should be functional.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, but it's nice in there. Yeah, precisely. Yeah, that's the whole point. The point is, connect creates the
content for you. So you don't have to create one by yourself.
Now, for example, you have a context. In the context, I think you can both set both state, and you can also set action to the context or the
In the context.
So in the context,
We are not going to access the context directly. Everything will be taken care of. I mean, like, you're using just connect, right? So your state will be available to the map dispatched, map state to props method. Yeah.
I'm not talking about connect itself. Let's leave the connect piece. Go back to previous question. I'm not very clear about the context piece. And if you so what you said when you explain this context is, so for example, I set this context between setting data to the context.
No, not exactly. You will be sending your store as a prop to the provider component, and provider component is provided by your React Redux package, and that will take care of setting it in the context and making it available to all your child components. So you will not do anything. You are just using this provider that is provided by the React Redux package. You are just sending it as a props. It knows how to handle it. So any props you send to the provider, it will make sure that those are available to the child components through your context. Through your context, which again you will not use it directly through the context, but you will use something like connect to create higher order components, and that will make it available through your two methods: map dispatch to props and map state to props. So kind of like that. Yeah. Cool. We'll take it off. Yeah.
Shall I try to rephrase on that end, or are we running out of time? I think I have to set this place.
We can take it off. So again, there is another tool for Redux development. It's called Redux Dev Tools. So this tool allows you to actually view the actions that are being dispatched, undo and redo, and move back and forth between your action dispatches. So this is a cool tool. Go check it out. I'll show you if possible. So finally, I want to touch on this concept, because React does not come with any routing functionalities. You have to use some external modules for that, and React Router is one such module that you can use for routing. So this is probably like an older version of React Router. There's like this new v4, but I think this will be sufficient to actually get started. So router is again a component, and the history prop is where you specify what kind of history you want to use for routing. If you use hash, then your routing will be like hash and whatever route you want to go. If you're using browser history, then it will be like your normal, URL stuff. And over here, inside the router component, we'll have the route definition. So when I say path slash and giving a component as prop, whenever my user hits this URL, this location, this component will be returned to it. And I can create child components for that route and child routes. So if he goes through /home, then I can get this component and make it combine it with the component that is already being returned in the root route. So this will be really useful when you're building something like your header and navigation stuff. So you will place it in the parent route component, and all your child route components will get them automatically. So it will be useful for that. So any questions?
In this case, will home be children relevant for the map?
Exactly. I'll show you an example. So, as you can see, I have the nav component, and you have a bunch of links, right? So, home, about, and contact. So, you want this part to be available, like across multiple routes. I mean, you want it to be in your about page, you want it to be in your contact page, you want it to be in your home page. So, the way you will do that is, you will return this component at the root level. So when you reach the root, you will get this, this navigational component. And in your child components, as you can see in the top level component, I'm including something called props.children.
Yeah.
So in the child components, whatever component is being written by the child route,
Home, about, and contact will be written.
yeah, it'll be written along with that parent component. So
And this is route 3, right?
yeah, this is like I told you, it's an older version of React.
How about 4?
I mean that will take like an entire talk on its own. So I don't want to like confuse the beginners with a lot of stuff. So I'll let it to you. You go explore yourself.
I started with route 4, and
Okay.
whenever I am seeing this and that, I'm pretty much
Yeah, I know there are like a lot of changes in
confused. Same cannot be achieved in the same way.
Exactly, but this is a good starting point, right? If you understand this, then I think you will understand about routing more, and I don't know, it's just like a starting point. So, yeah. And finally, I want to show you some production grade boilerplate code that you can use for your application. So one such boilerplate is your React.js starter kit. So this is like the structure of this boilerplate. As you can see, the source, you have components, containers, which are like your like the top level components that you'll be needing throughout your entire application, so that you'll need to reuse, like across multiple pages. And there's something called as routes, and within this routes, you will specify all your child routes. So unlike your, the React route component, you'll be adding an index.js file in your routes folder, and that will do a lot of stuff. I'll show you that also. So, but this is how you will normally, define your routes in this boilerplate code. So, your store creation and all your reducers will be inside the store folder, and all your tests will be in the outside level. It will not be inside the source. Any doubts? Any questions regarding this? So, like I told you, this will be how you will define your routes in this starter kit boilerplate. Like at the top, you can see the path, and so what this does is it returns this exports a function that will accept store as an argument, and this will be written whenever the route matches. So you can do a lot of cool stuff in this, like you can actually inject a reducer for a particular route, and the main point of structuring your application this way is you will not bundle up your entire application routes into one single file and give it to your client, but instead you will only bundle the components that are matching a particular route, and you will send. And so only when the user navigates to another route, he'll be getting the bundle that corresponds to that route, the components that are in that route. So it kind of provides those kind of functionalities.
It's like lazy loading.
Exactly. Kind of.
Only download whatever you need.
Yeah. No, this will be taking care of Webpack. So yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I think this group
it will know because you're specifying the path now, right? So the way Webpack works is like you can see right, create split point, right? So it knows how to split the chunks, corresponding to your route. Exactly. All these things will be like available to you in the Webpack config file. They have like written it, so you don't have to worry about it. It's all taken care of. That's one of the uses of the React starter. So I guess it's really tight. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys.